So I greatly welcome, those of you who are guests. It's, I think it's pretty amazing that folks just feel a call or an inspiration to join us. We are not in any way a conventional spiritual center or church or anything like that. I don't know what to call us. I don't. Somebody said to me the other day, it's like he needed a favor, this person, and so I was helping him doing a favor. And it caught him off guard. He's like, well, wait, why are you doing these things for me? Well, you needed help, didn't you? Yeah, but are you a Christian? Or are you? Yes. Are you a Buddhist? Yes. Whatever, because it confuses people, which is why people don't know God yet. If nice people confuse you, how are you going to know God? Nice people still, if they're still making you scratch your head, there's still a lot to go. It's a good distance to go. So the world, is waking up. Last week I sort of introduced a topic, and I want to talk today. I think a little bit maybe about intention, but I don't know. We'll see when I get there. But last week we talked about something, and I'll just repeat just a few sentences of it. Basically, human consciousness, there's the human, lower three chakras, the heart center, and spirit, God part of us, which is the upper three chakras. Now, that's just one interpretation of the chakras, of course, the primary seven we're used to hearing. So the human, the soul, the spirit. It's fairly simple. Now, each of these three, that is to say the human, the soul, and the spirit, each of those has sub-levels that we go through. But we are needing to evolve from human to soul and back to spirit. That makes sense, right? Okay, fairly simply stated. But each of those has sub-levels, as I said, 3 sub-levels. So the sub-level of our humanness, not yet soul, not yet spirit, our humanness, just in general, you could say is a sleeping human, a waking human, and a master. I don't mean a master like you speak with an accent and wear a turban, or people call you Swami this and whatever that. Master just means you know how to kick butt. You know how to kind of show up on this planet. Master does not mean, you wear only one color. It means, wow, man, I was asleep, I started waking up, and now I get it. And when I say I get it like a master understands basically the general rules of the universe, the laws of the universe. A master knows how to use these things. I'm not talking about someone that floats through the air on the Colgate Invisible Shield. You have to be old to remember that commercial, okay? Just use this toothpaste and nothing phases you in life. You float on the Colgate Invisible Shield. But I'm not going to tell you what brand toothpaste that was. No, it's obvious, right? So it's like that. It's mastery. You're here, but you get it. And it starts happening. You get it in one area, and then it starts, and it must start spilling over in a positive way to other areas. You could be a person who, God, everything I cook, it's just, You learned the secret of cooking, butter. But anyway, lots and lots of butter. I hope you folks have figured that out by now. But anyway, with enough butter, it's anything will taste good. But anyway, that's just me. But you can master that and start to realize, you know what? I listened and I knew just the right spices, and I've always been able to do that, you could say. Another person, it's, for me, a green thumb. But you start to realize the same love into the green thumb becomes the same love into dealing with animals, and then cooking, and then dancing. And you start to realize, wait a minute, and people don't know how to think this way. They should, but they're still sleeping, first level. Then they start waking. When they start waking, they start going, wow, I like that I'm good at this. And they start to kind of put things together. They are a little bit more loving, a little more into forgiveness and so on. That's waking humans. But there's 9 levels altogether. 3, 3, and 3. Humans that are waking up, they're only on level 2, and they're not even perfected there yet. And they want to go, I'm a goddess. You are not. You're barely even waking up. Now, there's nothing wrong with you saying, oh, God, goddess, fine. But can you at least own that you still have some waking up to do so that you can become a master? Because you can't be a God goddess if you don't even know how to master cooking. You know, who wants a goddess, in their life that burns everything? Who wants a God that burns everything? Who wants a God goddess that gets lost all the time? You've got to get mastery where you show up and you feel integrated somewhat. I have a spiritual self. I know how to feel my soul and know what my soul is calling me to do, but I know how to do it on earth. Nice, balanced self. It doesn't matter what size body I have. I know how to feel good about it and look good with it. It doesn't matter what books I've read. I know how to live them. Because to get to that point of truly being awakened, and again, I'm not talking about totally one with God yet. I'm just talking about waking up. And one of the keys to that is, first, don't try to jump to the highest level. First, read, study, do ceremony and ritual to learn about the thing you're trying to learn about. Christ consciousness. Then you start living it. Then you start becoming it. And don't go, I want to become it. Ready? Go. No, you can't just become it. There's a process. The journey is important. Otherwise, it's a fantasy. I'm a god. I'm a goddess. I'm a this. Just stop. Because if you try to ignore and you do the spiritual bypass, let's just pretend for a moment, there are a special group of beings on the other side that are just waiting for you to say, oh, I'm bypassing, I'm a god goddess. They're going to be like, oh, we have one of those. This is going to be great. Who's going first? I'll go first. Okay, you give them their lessons, and then I'll follow it up, and we'll give them the kabam at the end to where they go, I don't know anything. Back to humility. Start with humble, and then the universe won't humble you. Study. It's good. Read, teach, listen, speak, dialogue with each other. Let's learn and study, but that's only the first level of these 3 of awakening. Learn and study, then start living it. Don't go, I've heard forgiveness that's nice, you heard it. Do you practice it yet? Then you start practicing it, and there's a point where you just, I can't even imagine judging to have to forgive. Does that make sense? Like I just feel it's kind of who I am. There's no boastfulness. I'm saying we get to this point where we go, wow, there's a point. And that's kind of like saying mastery again. The 3rd level of the 1st level of consciousness, human. You don't condemn human. You have to become a human master. You have to get it right. And then awaits the 2nd level, the heart and soul, which is the level of the God goddess. And that has 3 levels, which I won't go into. And then the divine, and that has 3 levels, which I won't go into. Let's get this first. And it's amazing because people, there's nothing wrong with talking it because that's how you will eventually learn to live it. But if you never get to living it and you walk around, for example, the Gospel of Billy Joel says, there's not actually a Gospel of Billy Joel, so please don't go looking for it. Okay? But people are like that. The scripture says, they quote chapters and verses. I don't care if they're quoting the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao, scriptures of the Bible. I don't care. If you don't live it, all you're doing is preaching. You're just talking it. More people are more deeply affected by people who deeply get what they're talking about than people who talk it to the head, because then they only hear it at that level. So everybody sits around parroting these, scriptures. The Gospel of Billy Joel says, you had to be a big shot, didn't you? You had to prove it to the crowd. You had to be a big shot. You had to open up your mouth, and Oh, in the Gospel of Billy Joel, and so it saideth. That's awesome. Is that the best thing I've said so far today? Okay. So there are these levels we go to and go through. Mastery, which we've covered a bit last week. So I want to get to this concept of a God and goddess. Not because I want to just, bypass and ignore, but we've covered the other a bit. And some people, have asked, talk about some of the other a bit more. So we're not ignoring that there's 3 human levels. Sleeping, let's assume if you're watching a program like this, you're already to level 2 where you're waking up. Can't tell you that everybody's at the same level of waking, but we're certainly waking if we're watching something like this. Or if you're watching this by accident and you're annoyed that you found us, you're probably still in the sleeping category, okay? So, think of this as a bad dream and go somewhere else, okay? But if you want to wake up, you start, guys, if you're not seeing a counselor or a sponsor or talking to safe others, you don't know how to wake up yet. If you're still blaming the whole world for your life, you're still not waking up. Because sleeping involves hatred, judgment, projection, and even transference. So man, let's wake up and let's help each other stay awake. If you hear me tomorrow saying, man, my life was good except for this person, don't judge me for it. Just try to support me back to responsibility. I understand, I'm sorry that happened. Bridge with me being any of us. Bridge with others who say, because in that moment they're asleep when they're hurt and angry. Nothing can affect my divinity. I must be sleeping if I'm talking about how people have hurt my divinity. So don't slap me and say, wake up, by saying rude things. Instead, hey, wake up, like you would a child, honey, you're sleeping, you're having a bad dream, everything's okay, mom's here. Right. Do that for people. Where you say, hey, I get what you're saying. You do? Yes. Oh, yeah, Michael, you're having a bad week. Oh, yeah, I went through that too. Oh, Saturn return. Great. Talk to me and gradually reel me in. But isn't it great that in Saturn return, we access our deepest lessons? We do? Yeah. Oh, yeah, Saturn return, oh, man, that's heavy stuff. And by the way, it's also a full moon and Mercury's retrograde. Michael, you're in hell. Wow, you get it. Yes, I do. Now, while we're in hell, Michael, let's have fun. What's your favorite music? And wow, so you get me out of the pit of it. You follow what I'm saying? That's good. It's, you don't have to judge people that are asleep, but you're going to be tempted to. And when you talk well to people that are asleep, you start bridging. Here's a really weird thing that happened. A really weird thing. We were just mentioning this. Some people were talking about how tense people are these days. On the road and, and all that and stuff going on and tensions. And I was pulling into a parking lot a week ago or so. I was pulling into a parking lot and cars were all backed up, as has been happening in lovely Sedona. And there's this one car that wasn't turning into the parking lot like they could have been. And, there's no cars, but they're fearful or whatever, And all these other cars are backed up too. So one car over here honks at another, about the traffic going straight, and I'm trying to go left. The person in front of me, I think, thought me or somebody behind me was honking at them. This person, I could see through the back of their car window, I could see them like going nuts. Just crazy. And then their arms are like, they unbuckled their seatbelt. They got out of the car and they look back and they start to, no, don't you tell me what to do. And they start screaming. And I'm like, now, when someone's insane, why would you expect to be able to talk to them? What am I going to roll them? Hi, listen, let me just help you understand. That was actually someone else. But people are tense these days. COVID, they probably just got a shot. So, what else? What do you do to deal with this sort of stuff? What are you going to do? So instead, I just went, few times. Didn't help per se, but they got back in their car. I didn't even do it, but sorry. Okay? Now, this is what's weird. Now, this still affected me a bit. Being screamed at and yelled at and hated, especially when you didn't do anything. But I'm like, wow, okay. So I thought about this for a couple days, like, if I'm feeling any judgment and whatever this might be representing to me, my own or the global version of hate or anger, I'd rather not wish it away. I'd rather heal it so that we don't have to see it as often, right? So I just did what I could. And then there's the big hill down there, the other end of town. And there's this person that's trying to ride their skateboard uphill. And I see them, and I drove by and I went, they were wearing the same bizarre clothes as they were last week. I'm not going to describe the clothes. The same bizarre clothes that they were when they were in a car yelling. And I went, oh, that was them. I turned around, went back the other way, turned around, came back, because what I'm doing is waiting to see if I'm guided to do anything. If this person wasn't going to be able to make it uphill, I was going to pull over and give them a ride. Now, whether the ride would have been just kindness or whether I would have also been watching for an opportunity not to be mean, but to bridge and say, by the way, I remember the other day, so that I could help, honestly. But they were on the side of the road and they were kind of so seemingly off that I was waiting for I listen, and I didn't hear it to pull over and pick them up. But something did happen, which was I honked. It wasn't premeditated, but because I couldn't think of what else to do as I drove by, I just gave a quick honk. And this person, they just stood up and they waved. I swear to God. So I thought, and I started laughing, and then I thought, well, that might be the only miracle I'm seeing out of it, is before they went nuts and now they waved. And I thought, wow, this is, just blame it. Vortexes or COVID or something. Just let it be. So, you and I some of us are going to be sleeping. Some of us know people sleeping. Waking, that's great. That's generally people on the path. People on the path think they're up here. No. You're waking. Level 2. Please aspire to level 3. Please develop more mastery. How? It's a whole workshop we're doing in a few weeks if you want to join us. Honestly, it's great. But how to get there? Just try out at least a few things. And my simple advice would be, own that you are a master at least one thing in your life. I don't care if it's tying your shoes. There's something you have mastered. And try to bring it to others. Whatever you've mastered, let's say you only have ever mastered frisbee throwing. I'm going to ask you not only to own that you've mastered something, I'm going to ask you to try to let it spill over and realize if I can do that, I can do the same thing in any other category of my life. Okay? Okay, so yeah, frisbee, what does that have to do? What's he talking about? You'll never be able to catch a frisbee if you don't know how to focus. Here it comes, and you're over to the left, and it's over to the right. No, focus. Zen in the art of archery. Focus. Tie your shoes. You got to focus when you're young enough to first be learning that. So you have to show up. That's mastery. So whether it's frisbee throwing, my high school actually had that as a class, by the way. Southern California. Wow. Education was the last priority. We had surfing. We had frisbee throwing. I mean, it was such a bizarre school. But anyway. And I went there. I just outed myself, I guess. Such a weird place. Oh, so anyway, I don't know why I was there. So find look at yourselves and go, I am a master. I'm proficient at what? Don't say I'm a master at creativity. There's lots of pieces of creativity, right? There are musicians who are masterful only in one instrument. There are others who can kind of go anywhere. They pick up an instrument, they can find things, notes and whatever. That's kind of a musician master. But then they may not have down melody and harmony. But let's pretend you got that. That's broadening the mastery musician. But still there's painting and there's other things. Oh, I'm not good at those. That's not a master. A master says, well, let's try. But I have no skill. Don't say that. Mastery is, let's get the ball rolling. Let's try it. So just an initial thing for now. Please don't just be a waking human. Please fit on the outfit called mastery. Just come out. Realize you can do anything. Well, I've written songs, but I don't know anything about poetry. Start with roses are red, violets are blue. Do something, right? Just move. Oh, I don't know how to cook at all. Just put a bunch of butter in a pan. Then anything else is going to be fine. Do something. And you should also do the same with children. Just say, let's try, honey, instead of, oh, you're probably never going to be good at. That's not a good parenting skill. You should be thinking about how to be a master parent, right? Any topic. Mastery also is related to each chakra. So there's mastery related to the root chakra, like finances. Finances have a root chakra element, but also an intellectual element. But root chakra, sexuality, it's like, be there. Show up. What about physical things you need to do? Somebody needs help lifting something. Oh, I might break a nail. Just get over there and help. Master at anything physical. There are examples called role models, right? You can say physical master, Wayne Gretzky. How do I call him a master? I don't watch hockey. I've never watched. But I know enough to say when someone has become the sport. See, Bruce Lee is a master at that. I don't know that I would want him to cook anything for me. I don't know that I would, that he would be a great poet. I can't tell you that. All I know is at his martial arts, he was a master. When you start becoming and owning your mastery, and you start letting it broaden, and you start realizing it can go into any category, you're already moving towards God, Goddess. Because a god and goddess is simply a master who has not just been a master, they've embodied the thing. When you see me, you see the Father. That's Jesus saying, I'm a god and a master. How could I have said, when you see me, you see the Father, if I can't believe that I do anything right? He had to know how to tie his shoes. He had to know how to listen to people and know what they're needing at a given time. He had to stay plugged in to reality instead of being beat up by illusion. How can I be a god if I'm stuck in illusion? So it's just beautiful. There are these physical masters, and you suddenly realize, this is weird. It's almost magical. Right? It's almost magical. When you see role models, you're starting to go and you're accessing what's called an archetype. That's more like a god and goddess. You're not looking at a skill, a linear skill. You're seeing an archetype where the person can say, I am, not I do. And role models that you think you have, Michael Jordan, Mother Teresa, whatever. Role models are basically your first attempt at noticing gods and goddesses. They just don't call them that anymore. And some of the role models clearly don't live up to it, so it's just beginner level. More like master, because master is the highest of the human, and you're going to head into the god-goddess aspect. When you see the god-goddess aspect, it's interesting. This is very deep, so bear with. When you see the god-goddess in anyone or anything, you might say, in each, there's chakras, remember. So there's physical masters. It could be Alexander the Great. Perfect. Just absolute mastery of that particular thing. The warrior, Krishna, the warrior. They know what they're doing on that level. But they also live it in other areas. But when you say Alexander the Great, guess what? There's others that have the same archetype, like King Arthur. So what's going to happen is human beings are going to go this route. First, they're going to see, for example, a role model that seems like a god-goddess, which could be you. Then they're going to start seeing there's a group behind them, and that's more of an archetype. So, for example, you can say, I want to have the a greater wisdom, like Solomon. I want to embody Mother Teresa, the selflessness. Great. That's the first level. That's the human level of an archetype. The soul level is where you start to realize there's a collective, and it's all the gods and goddesses of that nature. So, for example, Solomon, Merlin, you see? That's a different level of consciousness. That's the mind, the power of the mind, the ability to focus. Merlin, wisdom, the smarts of Solomon. That's an archetype, and you can name other men and women in that archetype, or sports people or warriors in that archetype. So you go from an individual to a collective. What do you think comes next? Here's what comes next. The consciousness itself. So I have the wisdom of Solomon, then I have the wisdom of mankind, then I have just wisdom, divine wisdom. And that's when I know I'm going here. Which one should you be working on? The human one. Why? Because you're a human being. But the secret, in my opinion, the really cool thing, and the highest advice I could give you would not be just to focus on, I want to be like Michael Jordan, or I want to be like, whomever you admire on a human level. Do that because it helps you go somewhere. But I'm telling you that if you focus on the consciousness, the one that's the highest, you're going to get the other anyway. Seek first the kingdom, and the rest will follow. But still, as a teacher, I have to tell you, well, let's focus here, because that's where people believe they are. And still, it just happened the other day, where I was up all night and day, all through the night and all that. And I was doing a mantra throughout. Since I'm up and I'm not sleeping, I was just doing like calling in let's say the will of God or peace. So rather than focusing, which you can do, a stone that feels peaceful, that'll help you. A person that feels peaceful, that'll help you. If that's where you're at, that's where you should go. You can also start going, my guru, he lives in India and he said that I should think of him. If that's what you want to do it. Everyone will evolve eventually to only calling in the consciousness itself. You won't have to think of even an angel's name. You get what I'm saying? Just the consciousness. You just go straight to God. Not your teacher, not your guru, not your author, not your minister or whatever else. Is that making sense? So, thank you. So the development of the God Goddess, there's this realization that, wow, there's levels to that too. There's I've got to own my mastery self, yes. But as I ascend into the God Goddess consciousness, am I really, because I'm talking it. I read this book and, oh yeah, I'm embracing my goddess self. Really? How so? What is it? Well, I don't know. I haven't read that chapter yet. So you're still at the first level where you're talking it. There's the point where you start integrating it, and then you become it. You learn it, you live it, you become it. All of us. So all of a sudden you realize, wow, this is fantastic. I've been learning and studying the concepts of archetypes and gods and goddesses. And whether it's of Egypt or whether it's of the Norse tradition or North American, whatever. Now I'm getting to the point where it's not an individual, because that's role model, which is perfect for its level. All of a sudden I'm going, wisdom in general. You see, the wisdom of this male, female, whatever, race doesn't matter. Just wisdom, the wisdom of people. Then all of a sudden you go capital W, wisdom. And you're calling in the wisdom of God. And the wisdom of God will make you a little bit more Mother Teresa, a little bit more, Mary Magdalene or whomever else you once admired. Different chakras. The archetype of the master and archetype of the emotional center is going to be obviously somebody that really can deeply understand human emotion. And I'm talking about poetry and feeling as well. The mental mastery, that's the sharp-mindedness, man, the ability to just penetrate illusion and see things more clearly. And the heart. Mother Mary's a great example of the heart master, honestly. And so is Mary Magdalene, but yet they're very different. because Mother Mary is doing the archetype of the world mother. And she did such a good job of it, check this out, that she not only was owning the mother, the divine mother concept as a human being. I'm going to be unconditional as a mother, and I have a son. His name's Jesus. So I'm going to just own this really well. That's mastery. But she went from master to the next level in her heart to, oh my God, I'm starting to embody the world mother, the Kuan Yin and the world mother. So I'm not saying this is conscious or necessary for her to think about, but she's becoming a goddess of the mother. Nice job. Not enough. Because as soon as she embodied that well enough, you know what happened next? She went to the third level, the divine. And she became one with the divine mother. Not just the earth mother or the human mother. It's divinity. Jesus wasn't like, I got to really keep working on this Christ thing. When you work on it, you're still at one level. Then he's living it. And when he says the words, it is finished. He was free to now totally become. So there's a father aspect of God, a mother aspect of God, and the child, we call it the Son of God, but the child aspect of God. Mary became the perfected mother aspect of God. Not just here. She arose into the upper, which very few people have done. Jesus then owned the Son of God. Are you the Son of God? Yes, I am. Oh, we don't like you. Why? He tells him, you know why you don't like me? Because you're over here, man. You're sleeping. People that are sleeping have nightmares, and you people are a nightmare. I'm paraphrasing. Oh, he didn't say it exactly like that. But paraphrasing. It takes a lot for you to be as miserable as you are. It does. It takes a lot to be miserable, to not laugh, to not ease. Just relax your ego, man. Relax. Ease up. The tension, the defensiveness, the head overriding and thinking, and this is not as good as me, and on and comparisons and judgments and competitions. Just stop. You can stay that way, pretending that you're awake, but you're just asleep. How? Because you're tense. When you wake up, the tensions start to disappear. If you're still tense, that's a bad sign. So Jesus is saying, and the wording he used in the Bible, as we have it recorded, he said, the reason you can't understand me is because your teacher is evil. It's the ego. Your teacher lives on darkness. My teacher, he says, your father is one of illusion and deception. He's talking about the ego. But my father is of love and light. So here I am, and I'm doing the light, and you don't like it because basically your source of everything, emotion, information, etc., does not get this. And you're hating me for the I am of God because you're hearing I am not in yourself. So you're angry at me because I am. But you don't get it. So are you. So you're really just mad at yourself for not owning the God I am. By killing him, it's a major statement, not just for him, because he's told us you're going to be persecuted too. It doesn't mean literally and all the time. What he's saying is every bit of you trying to own your God, goddess self, there's an ego that doesn't want you doing it. And it's going to do everything in its power to keep that from happening. So I see us as not only in the waking state, I'm saying more and more, and I've been teaching the whole concept of mastery for a long time. Mastery, we can do this. And I think for some people it sounds very weird. Like when they ask Jesus, are you the Son of God? Yes, I am. And they get mad at him. Do not own goodness. Do not own power, they want you to think, So I know for a while it was maybe stranger for people to hear me teaching classes, workshops. I would call the workshops living mastery or attaining mastery. And I would get notes once in a while from people. How dare you? Who are you to think you can attain mastery? Who are you to think that you can't? And if I had to choose between those two, I think I'd go my route. Why play low all the time? I am, you are. So let's go. So mastery is a very, very important piece, but today, taking it to the next, the God-Goddess aspect. So do think about this in your own lives. Think about, if you say, well, but I'm way far from that. Own mastery. Don't forget, develop and own the mastery more. But go aspire towards the God Goddess. And the easiest thing, in my opinion, to take you in that direction is start asking yourself, if I've mastered the basics of anything and or more than one thing, could I say that, even if it's just to myself, could I say that I feel like the god or goddess of something? And if you want, use role models and say, well, I'm a painter and I'm really good, but where do I go after this? Watch masters and go, that person's a master. Oh my God. Like, oh my God, look what they can do. I don't care if they can create stained glass. Bob Ross. Remember him? The Afro dude? Well, we're going to paint some happy trees here. This one we're going to call Charlie. But Charlie seems lonely, so we're going to paint another tree. It's a trip. But, and some people might like him, some people, the bottom line is he's a master. I don't watch PBS stations typically. But I was flipping channels many years ago, and I knew I was looking at a master. Do you think he walked around going, I'm the god of painting? No. But it's there. He's embodying it. How do we know he's different than any other painter? There's no effort. When you want to know if you're embracing God, goddess, effort. Mastery, first of all, effort starts dropping. God, goddess, it's definitely dropped. That dude would, first we're going to start with, and he'd just splatter paint on a canvas. Then he would rub his hair in it, put his elbow in it, and all of a sudden there's a forest. What? How could that? Because I said when we started a while ago, it's as though supernatural things happen with masters. But all that's happening is I'm remembering my divinity, and my divinity can do anything. So things start to seemingly become easy. People get irritated when they see you doing it more easily than them. How did you graduate faster than I did at this or that? You can't answer that. But if you could, what would you say? I think I'm not as tense. I just try. I just, give it a shot. And that's going to irritate them, so you can't really answer that. There are people out there that major critics of Bob Ross. I can't think of any painter, even if it were some of the classic painters of the past, who lived in pain because they worked so hard at painting. I've known oil painters, that actually almost died because of the toxins of the oil in the paint. So there's people that try real hard, and then there's this Bob Ross dude. And it's just like, oh, look at that. And then, oh, there's a river. But see, without a twig floating down the stream, it doesn't look quite right. And he just, all of a sudden he'll ka-choo. And all of a sudden, there's a stream, and now there's a twig floating, and it takes on this whole dimensionality. And do you know where that dude's paintings are? Does anybody know? They're all in a building. He painted 3 of every one. A finished product to advertise, the initial one that he's getting started, and one that was done during the show. 3 of every painting. They're all in a building. He won't he's passed away, but he left the will that nobody's allowed to sell them. He didn't want to make money on his work. That is another level of mastery. You get what I'm saying? Wow. There's these gals, you probably could Google it or something, find it on YouTube or something. There's these gals that work for him, and they're just eccentric as heck. They're a crack up. They go, yeah, people call and keep offering us money. We go, no. And they're like, what do you mean? You've got to sell them. No. And they're just a crack up. They're like, yeah, we get these emails, and my life was changed, and I would like to buy all his paintings because they're like, no, what a weird position to be in. But this is how the dude was. So prosperity, and I'm going to start winding up here, but success is another topic of mastery. You have humans at the primal level of finances who are either one or two extremes, and they're both the same. You have people that are struggling with lack and they're broke, and you have people competing to make more. They're both messed up. The people that are out there trying to make more than someone else are broke. These are broken, they're broken. But it's messed up human. When you start achieving mastery and God-goddess concepts, you start realizing the more I give, the more I receive. And I can tell you, even closest friends don't get that. They'll go, Michael, you can't. I do. And then I get more. I don't hear them go, I get it now. It's a funny thing. Fearful people want to stay fearful. So when miracles happen, they just back up a little and they stop talking for a minute because they're like, I'm waiting for something to go wrong. And that's a tense way to live. But I keep saying, look, watch, trust. It'll be okay. I give and give. Most of what I do is free. I think I'm supposed to charge for everything. Because the world tells you the more you take or make, the more you have. And I'm like, this is weird. Because I'm more prosperous now than when I had to charge for things, years ago. It's the strangest thing. And I think I worked harder. You see? And as you get in the consciousness, give. Give and give and give and give. Just keep sharing. Only what you can afford. I'm not telling you to go to my level of believing or somebody else's level of believing, nor should we go to yours. Just check in. God and goddess. Be a god, goddess of even finances. But get masterful first, learn mastery, and then go to the level of God, goddess. And here's one last secret to that. Think of yourself as the god, goddess of something, and then see if you can broaden that, and can you own it? Okay? Not at first maybe announcing it at family reunions or class reunions. Boy, that's a weird thing, right? But what can you own, and can you start saying, honestly, stop and sit with that and say, do I have any of that? And one thing you can do, see it in others, and it'll help you start owning it in yourself. If you only see it in others and not yourself, that's transference, not healthy. See it in others and allow it to land here too. When you start to go, you know what? I started doing some music the way Bob Ross did paintings. I started counseling clients of mine the way Alexander the Great conquered countries. Well, how can you make a metaphor there? You have to have the consciousness to do it. Alexander the Great, you don't put up with any crap. So when you sit down with clients, you don't go, so let's talk again, like girlfriends. No, I'm going to give you homework. We're going to go somewhere. So Alexander takes over all of Persia, even though he was outnumbered. You're outnumbered too. Your clients sometimes don't want to change. So say to them, hi, guess what? My greatest role model is Alexander the Great. So we're going somewhere. You can't keep secrets, or don't come to me. No secrets allowed. Everything out. Let's go. People think that's a weird metaphor. People don't know that he prayed constantly for guidance on everything he did. There's also negative archetypes. Attila, Hitler, even Caesar, to me. Conquerors are a negative archetype. Alexander, and for that matter, King Arthur, they were unifiers. They said, everybody's fighting and killing each other. We're going to stop, get everybody on the same page. And I think that's brilliant. In a warrior way. Even Krishna says that. Right? Hey, when you got to say no to tyranny and hurt, say no to tyranny and hurt. Step up. And as long as you're doing what you believe to be the right thing, you've already won the battle. Don't worry about who wins externally. Do what you know is right, then you're winning. That's mastery applied even in a battlefield. Some humans, oh, no, it can't be applied there. Don't leave light out of any category of life. I don't care what the topic is. If you're a counselor and people come to you and they, I did a naughty thing, and I don't want to tell anybody, they should be able to tell you and you not have a reaction that they're anticipating that was keeping them afraid. You've got to be different. You've got to be able to look at the battlefield and go, we're going, we can do this. to your clients. Oh no, this is terrible. Bad things are going to happen. I promise you. You have to be able to say that. Alexander never said, men, go get them. He just rode in front. He took an arrow now and again. He just stayed alive. It's amazing. You and I have to be able to do that. As moms, oh, you skinned your knee. Oh, honey, I'm funny about blood. I don't know. You might live, you might not, but just go cope with it. No, get in there. A story I shared once, I was driving down the street and unfortunately, right in front of me at an intersection, a car clipped a motorcycle and this dude he lived. But when I went over there to help, the first person there, I just noticed he has a foot over there in a sandal and his body's over here. Now, I wasn't waking up that day going, I wonder if I can find a human foot. It's gruesome. It's weird. I was a kid. All I knew is that was what was happening in the moment. And that and every other time I had to change babies' diapers and every time I've had a client who's crying and emoting and they have every kind of, on my shoulder. They leave their snot and everything on my shoulder and their makeup and they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm a daddy. This is nothing, babe. I've been there, man. This is like, great. This is no problem. It's a badge, a merit badge. When you're a mommy or a daddy, there's already master and God Goddess waiting to happen. But you think of it as so common that you don't get it. A nurse, is she a nurse who's working as a nurse? Or is she a healer? See, the archetype is a healer. Yes, at work you might need to say, I'm a doctor, I'm a nurse. You might need to do it. I'm a paramedic. I understand. But inside, oh my God. Just this one sentence could make you go, oh my God, I'm not just a nurse. I'm not just a social worker. I'm a healer. It makes total sense. And I could have done this kind of healing or that because it's all within the umbrella of my being a healer. Wow, I got it. Now when you see other nurses, honor them as healers. When you see massage therapists, honor them as healers. Chiropractors, healers. And then you'll start owning more of it for yourself. And those few things are some of the secrets to getting to that place. See it in others. If you don't see it, refuse to see it, you're denying it yourself. Welcome it, celebrate it. I can look at somebody and go, God, just the way some people dress. They're so there. It's so their creativity expressing right here. So at the end of the day, when someone meets you, if you want to dare call yourself a God, goddess of something, you better be able to own it. I mean, you can just talk it. It's just not authentic. But if you're going to say, oh, I'm a total goddess of creativity, make sure we can see it in you. Make sure it's so obvious, right? Because if you're the goddess of it, it should be evident, right? You don't meet the likes of Bruce Lee and say, that person just seems like he's one with nature, like he's out petting fawns or whatever. This dude was just like all the time. People don't realize, because people don't want to believe in supernatural. He did weird things that nobody would even, I know somebody that was close to him. And he's saying, Michael, you have to understand. He did things we won't even repeat because nobody would believe it. He could jump and grip a ceiling and suspend himself. Because every muscle was doing what he told it to do. But it was extreme too and imbalanced. Mastery, got to have balance. So whatever you do, please, just own it. Just enjoy. Hear this talk and go home today owning. At the very least, I'm awake or waking. Secondly, I am getting into mastery. Third, I think I'm even ready to own the God, goddess of myself. Let's take a few quiet breaths on that. As usual, setting aside the stuff of life and the world. How nice that just with an exhale, we can symbolically release limitation, old thoughts, old beliefs. Just kind of like letting it melt off. What religion are you? And it's all gone. You know, it's like, what gender? Republican, Democrat. Like all the stuff of this world, let it go. That's not my goal. When I was sleeping, I acted like I was sleeping, unawake, unconscious. In this moment, I am affirming the choice to awaken. Whatever level I have already done so, I accept it multiplying severalfold. I am on a trajectory towards complete awakening, and there's no going back. So opening and opening and opening and opening, just releasing the old, the past. And if there's any element in me that is masterful, have I mastered anything at all? Yes. If you can't think of anything profound, start with brushing your hair. Wardrobe, friendship, parenting, everybody has mastered something. Just own that for a moment. Doesn't mean I've perfected it always and in all categories. I just get the gist of how to own a talent and then allow it to work through me at ease without as much struggle as I once did. Give that just a moment. So we're owning mastery levels that we have attained and that we are attaining. But let's anticipate slightly. If I were to anticipate becoming a god goddess of any topic, what might it be? Just allow your soul and spirit, God, to answer with you. What would it be? Could it be being friendly, bridging with people? Counseling, healer. Think of a one-word archetype. If you don't know, all you have to do is, one trick is looking at people you've admired because you've probably admired them because they were a symbol of the archetype you're wanting to go towards. Or it might be one just slightly different. But come up with at least one while you watch this program today, online or in person. You know, I would like to be a goddess of parenting. I would love to be a god of hope for people. It doesn't mean I have to be perfect at it. It doesn't mean I put pressure on myself. I get to, not have to. I get to be this at a new level. Maybe it's a master, a god, goddess of humor, lightness, levity, peace. Strength. And remember, first I admire it, then I become it more and more. I start to live it. And at some point, it's the consciousness I become. I become the wisdom of God, not just the wisdom of Solomon. I seek the strength of God, the peace of God, oneness. Ultimately, I go to the concepts of God and not just of man. Last but not least, take just a half a minute to imagine yourself. You just chose a god, goddess of a title. Now picture yourself living it. What if you were living, not thinking it, talking it, speaking it, you're actually that thing. See yourself living it. See how it affects other people around you. There's nothing grandiose about it or egotistical about it. Just living it. in as practical a form as possible, whether it's as a counselor, a healer. How does it change for you? See it happening. Until there's no effort and I have become. I have become peace. I've become love. The goddess learning to forgive became someone who lives forgiveness, and I became forgiveness, and so on. Quietly in your way, give thanks. And as you fade from that brief meditation, just feel it integrated. Just please own that this is real and that there's a shift for you. And when you're ready, slowly stretch out. How are we feeling? Good. Good. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for your dedication to your path. It's beautiful. So thank you for being with us. Please stand for our closing prayer. I say it just about every week, how much I feel so much gratitude that you guys are who you are. You're an extension of me, and I hope I'm a good mirror to you, but you're a great mirror to me. You guys are wonderful. It's such a great vessel you create that I can just go anywhere, wherever we need to go and share any topic. It's just fantastic. So thank you. Centering first into gratitude, of course. What we've experienced. If you liked what you heard, wow. There's parts of you that must be blossoming and growing and digging what you're doing. If you didn't like it, I wonder why. What is it bringing up in you? What is it mirroring to you? Please take it in. And if you liked this, wow, be nothing but grateful because this is you. The light of God surrounds us. We are. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love of God. The power of God protects us. We are the power of God. And the presence of God watches over us. We are the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is. I am. We are. And so it is. So beautiful and complete. Thanks, guys. God bless. We'll see you soon. Thank you. You're welcome.